When the body of a West Point cadet is found, the superiors do the only logical thing, and they call in Christian Bale, because obviously they didn't see Amsterdam, and that's this movie. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is a review of The Pale Blue Eye. Christian Bale's attempt at redemption. You know what's really funny is that, like, Margot Robbie gets dragged for having films that bomb, and like she's like, she's in Babylon, and she was in Amsterdam, and her films keep bombing at the box office. It's like, yeah, you know who else is not doing great right now? Christian Bale, same film. And in Pale Blue Eye, Netflix was like, nah. I mean, the Oscar campaign for this is, like, non-existent. This is, I know you feel like, oh, he's reviewing 2023 movies. This is a 2022 movie. This was given a 4-year consideration run. It's just nobody's considered it. So, I don't know what the IMDb score is, and I really don't care. Sometimes I comment on that. I'm a blind film critic, so I review things with audio description, and this does have audio description. So that checked off the most basic requirement. Does film have audio description? Yes. Has audio description. I was actually kind of interested in this. It has the potential to have a really neat plot, because at some point in the film, regardless of whether or not the film makes sense, Christian Bale's detective character needs to have Edgar Allen Poe helping him. And that is why The Pale Blue Eye exists. I'm not really sure about anything else about this film except for the fact that that could have been cool. Now, there's a lot that I know about The Pale Blue Eye that is not relevant to The Pale Blue Eye. Like through, like, little hype when it came up. Like, I first heard about the film simply because I follow Oscar talk, and I've noticed that this film has had performances on Gold Derby as, like, you could possibly select them, like, if you think Christian Bale could get a Best Actor nomination for this. Sorry, I laughed. But yeah, so and then lo and behold, later on down the line, one of my favorite YouTube critics, Perry Nemiroff, did her, like, dream wish lists, and she actually, I haven't even bothered. I was so underwhelmed by this film. I didn't look up anybody else's names because I don't care. But the guy who plays Edgar Allan Poe was her dream wish for Best Supporting Actor, and I don't know what that says about the rest of the films this year. That this was it for her. Like, I want to have, like, a deeper conversation with her. I wish we were friends. I would be like, is that you making, like, a state of, like, films in 2022? Like, you couldn't think of anybody else other than this guy? She made a comment about how he walks in the room and says books, and she's like, I just loved it so much. And I was like, I waited for that moment, and I was like, it's coming. He's gonna say books, and it's gonna be awesome. And then he says it, and I'm just kind of like, I mean, okay, all right. It's a 2-hour murder mystery, and the problem is, it's a 2-hour murder mystery that should be a hell of a lot quirkier than it is. Like, it tries to be quirky. Like, Edgar Allan Poe in this film tries to be quirky. He tries to interject some level, but it's like it's directed by somebody who rejects quirkiness and doesn't know what to do with it. We just saw Rian Johnson do a brilliant job with Glass Onion, right? He totally understood. He understood his characters. He understood how to set up a murder mystery, the whole whodunit thing, how to keep you guessing. how to have a detective come in and have a real detective working the story and just keep you engaged for the whole time. That movie was longer than this. It did not feel longer than this. This film is shorter than Glass Onion, and it felt like I was there for a lifetime. I was trapped in some circle of hell that I couldn't get out of. It was so slow. It was like The Wonder. I'm like one of the few critics this year that hated The Wonder. I felt like this film we've seen, I mean, my God, how many detective stories have we had? It's 2022. Reach all the way back to like Agatha Christie and, all the way up through radio dramas, right? We've had all those radio dramas. We've had all those, Dashiell Hammett stories. And we've had everything like Maltese Falcon, all the way up through stuff like Mrs. Marple. And I mean, we've had so many mysteries, Murder, She Wrote and Columbo and Perot and just I mean, we have been detected this shit out. Law and Order SVU has been running for 24 seasons now. If you can't figure out how to follow a crime, damn. So the question is, when you go for like a detective story, what is it about you and your version that makes it different from the 7,000 that we've already had before you? There's nothing here. They took the one thing that was interesting and they made it boring. This film should have been directed by like Tim Burton. It should have been directed by Guillermo del Toro. It should have been directed by somebody who understood the macabre and the interestingness of having Edgar Allan Poe investigating this murder. I don't even know why Christian Bale chose the non-interesting role. Like, why is he the straight guy in this thing? Why is he I mean, technically, yes, it's the lead role, but he read the script and was like, I want to be the boring guy. He didn't want to be, because the other movie he plays a guy whose eye is constantly falling out in Amsterdam. He made himself look like an idiot so that he could be in that role. But here he's like, yeah, I just want to phone it in. Just looking for a paycheck. Thanks. I don't want to be the other guy. Okay. So they find some random guy who, God love him, probably the character actor coming up through the ranks. I'm probably crapping on somebody who doesn't need to be crapped on. But it's the kind of role that you really want to make sure you give to the right person. That you really want to give to somebody who understands the quirkiness of Edgar Allan Poe. I hate to say it, but I know it's supposed to be young. I could have seen Timothée Chalamet in this role. Based on the tone of the film that they're going for, because it's kind of toned down, and Timothée Chalamet kind of mopes around. A lot. He's very mopey. I'm sorry, Chalamet fans, but he's very mopey. He could have at least done something with the role, at least for this director. Now, if we had gotten a director that wanted to make this film a little bit more, Glass Onion, a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more up-tempo, then sure, yeah, we can get a different person. But something needed to be done with this role. It needed, the whole reason this film is interesting is because of Edgar Allan Poe, and it's so boring. And the film does not know how to focus on him. The film doesn't know what to do with him. The film doesn't know what to do with its plot. It doesn't know what to do with anything. It directs this film in the least interesting way possible, with a story that bored the absolute ever-loving shit out of me. It was like watching like the worst version of A Few Good Men. Like A Few Good Men if it was set in the 1800s and was really slow and it just didn't go anywhere. I don't know. Luckily, as with most films, it feels like I'm coming hard on this film. I saw worse films in 2022. So that's the thing, is like with a lot of other critics, they stay away from those films. I always hear them say, they're like, oh, I usually don't see films that look bad to me. And it's like, but then you end up bottoming out films like Pale Blue Eye, because you didn't see the truly terrible films, because you avoided the films that were really terrible, because you didn't sit through films like Marmaduke and Brazen and Hot Take and Love Accidentally, and just like a whole bunch of really awful straight to streaming films that happened this year. And because of that, you end up with a film that's your worst film of the year, which is like my, I don't know, 47th worst film of the year. So yeah, I didn't like The Pale Blue Eye, but I didn't like it about the same level as I didn't like The Wonder. The Wonder isn't even in my bottom 25. So this is safe from that. It's in a place where I wouldn't recommend it. I will say though, this film has a fantastic score. This film comes in with a score that's way better than the film ever needed it to be. It's I'm at that place now where I'm like, I slept and I forgot his name. It's the same guy who did Fantastic Beasts earlier in the year. And I don't know why he keeps having to write scores for for movies like that, but maybe one day he'll get matched with a good film. It's a good score. Best thing about this film is the score. Yeah. So that's something, I guess. It doesn't start off. It's weird because it doesn't start off in a way that would alert you to the fact that the film is not going to be great. It's just flat for the whole film. It just never. It stays like you're like, okay, so I'm getting the impression of what we're doing here. We're getting okay, but there's no rise and fall. There's no like, like, oh my god moments. Like, holy shit, what? Oh, it was that guy. Oh, what? Damn. No, there's nothing. The whole film is just kind of, and people's reactions to things too are just kind of flat. And I don't know. If you're gonna bring Edgar Allan Poe into a story and have him like quasi investigating this crime, you got to do better than this. Both focus wise in the story and also with the actor. He was not one of my favorite supporting actor performances of the year. I didn't think he's one of the worst supporting actors of the year, but I just felt like they didn't want to do anything with Edgar Allan Poe. Well, then it doesn't need to be Edgar Allan Poe. Just name him something else and then move on. Just call him Dave and be like, that's Dave. And then the film would have made a lot. Actually, the film probably would have been better because then I would have been so distracted by the fact I was like, this is fucking Edgar Allan Poe. What is this film doing? Like, why? Anyway, so it's on Netflix. They waited until after everything. I love their last two films were like that they dropped were just kind of like, oh god, you're trying to get these nominated? All right. The one right before this last week was White Noise. So and now we're here with Pale Blue Eye, and it's like but don't be confused, this is not a 2023 movie. This did a 4-year consideration, so it qualifies for the 2022 Oscar ceremony. It just won't be nominated, so that's where you'll be confused, because you'll be like, but John told me it was a 2022 Oscar movie. I didn't say it was going to get nominated. I just said it's on the ballot. It's on the ballot. So I think it's time to put this bed to rest, and put this to bed. Rest. We're gonna rest. We're gonna do something. I don't know. Not the Pale Blue Eye. I'm gonna give the Pale Blue Eye, which has fine audio description. I mean, just absolutely, it's absolutely fine audio description. It's as far as following a murder mystery, sure. And this film, because it's not interesting, doesn't have a lot of dialogue. It tries to capture, I don't know, the theme of the moment, or the set and the scenery. So you get a whole lot of really important, like, for example, at the beginning of the film, the way that the corpse is found is described to you very specifically in a way that's interesting, because it kind of makes you wonder how did this happen? And that's what you're supposed to take away from this, is the mystery part of, well, how did somebody hang themselves if they were not in a space that they were off the ground, you know? So, yeah, so that's you get that description while we're just sort of staring at the body, just hanging there, but not really hanging there because he's touching the ground. So, yeah, so that's the audio description. I think that's like the first thing in the film. So if you were like, oh, it's a spoiler, I was like, I think that's when the film opens, is with a shot of that body. So I usually don't consider opening things to be spoilers. If you start the film and it happens within like the first minute, it's not a spoiler. Or if it's the catalyst that sets the whole movie in motion, it's not a spoiler. It just means they didn't put it in the preview, or you didn't see a preview. That's all that means. Yeah, that's the catalyst also. Not only is it the opening thing, but it's also the catalyst. So, now that we got that out of the way, and you know that the audio description here is fine, should you want to watch this film, keep in mind, I didn't like The Wonder, so if you decided to watch that on yourself, and you were like, oh my god, I love The Wonder. I know some people love The Wonder. They got something out of it. Good for them. I respect your opinion. If you think you can get something out of The Pale Blue Eye, fine. Go for it. I'm going to give The Pale Blue Eye a D. It's the same score I gave The Wonder. Ironically, both Netflix films. So, that's it. That's my Pale Blue Eye score. If you could please continue to subscribe and continue to push my channel onwards and upwards, that would be great. I want to keep talking about films from a blind perspective with audio description and all that kind of stuff. I know I didn't do that, not much of it here, but I don't know. Sometimes you just throw in something and you're just like, I have to talk about this one thing. And this was one of those times where I needed to vent about how uninteresting this film was. I also have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. I have a Twitter at MacTheMovieGuy. I have an Instagram at MacTheMovieGuy. I have, you can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who is describing your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will review something else for you guys because I give you guys a review every day. That's why you should subscribe. And I will see you on the other side.